Ladies and gentlemen, Roster Watch Nation, welcome back to the epic Roster Watch podcast brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here, of course, with the Trashman on a Thursday afternoon, the Thursday afternoon leading into the championship weekend. And that means one thing. Well, it means two things. It means a lot of things. Trashman, I think you got a haircut, didn't you? You got a haircut this week?
Did get a haircut last week, I think. Yeah, last week.
What do you call that one? Is it like a fade? Is it high and tight?
I guess kind of high and tight. I don't know. Just told him to take some off the sides.
I need a haircut very, very badly. Hence my wearing of the hat here on the stream. If you're watching on the stream on Periscope, YouTube, thanks for joining us. If you're listening on the podcast feed, of course, this is podcast number 210. If you could please rate and review an Apple Podcasts, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps us out a ton. We're going to be talking today about like I said earlier, like this week means three things. One, Trashman got a haircut. Two, we have championship weekend, an awesome weekend of football coming up. And three, we leave for the Senior Bowl on Monday. And so we're getting started with our scouting work here on some of these wide receivers. Today, we'll go over three of them. We'll talk about Denzel Mims from Baylor. We'll talk about Collin Johnson from Texas. And we will talk about Brian Edwards from South Carolina. Before we get into any of that, though, I just wanted to just get kind of Trashman's initial thoughts on the slate of games this weekend. We'll have the breakdown tomorrow with Byron from a DFS and sort of one-and-done playoff league perspective. But just as you started looking at it, Trashman, any real leans this week? Is Derrick Henry going to keep it going, you think, versus the Chiefs? I mean, can he keep it going? Is it at all sustainable?
Can he keep it going? Why couldn't he?
Well, because, I mean, maybe he's just, I don't know. Is he just a super robot?
When we scouted him, when he was coming into league, he was a beast. He was a guy who was, prototypical running. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess abnormal running back size, but could still move and could catch passes. It took the Titans about 3 years to realize that he could catch passes.
Which is so cockamamie and absurd. Like, I wish they would have listened to us the whole time. For once, they should have been listening to their roster watch.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to definitely keep it going. I have to imagine that the Titans will get some sort of passing game going outside of AJ Brown. I felt like
with who?
Adam
Humphries came back to practice on Wednesday.
That's true. Adam Humphries is back. I think because
it's not going to be goddamn. It's not going to be fucking
Corey Davis. He had some flashes. I felt like he had some he played well on
in his
some
career.
Plays.
In his career,
I mean, I felt like there were some times where
he
played hard. He played hard. He showed effort. But yeah, Adam Humphries could be a sneaky DFS play this week, I think. In addition to Derrick Henry. I don't know. Ferkser's always a dark horse.
He's not too dark. What do you think? What about on the other side? Are you just going to play all the Mahomes? Like, it's kind of hard to play Mahomes, Kelsey, Damian Williams, Tyreek Hill, like all these guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think Mahomes is a no-brainer, but
it's like whenever you look at the slate, it's like probably 80% of people are going to play Mahomes, right?
Yeah,
it seems like that's the way it's going to be. Like, it's how good do you feel clicking on any of these other names? Ryan Tannehill throws he's averaged 14 and a half attempts over the course of the last two. It's like that. Is he going to have to throw more? If you're the trash man, if you got to pick one of these guys that's not Mahomes, if you want to get off him, who do you like? Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy G, or Tanny? You do like Tannehill.
I do.
You just because of the scoring environment in that game, 50-something total.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is playing like the Mahomes of last year. After, I don't know, it was kind of a slow start for him to the season. But he's back in rare form again. I think Tannehill's going to have to put up a pretty fantastic performance for the Titans to pull this one off.
Well, I think the technical term for what Mahomes did to the Texans was, I think, what I learned it in school. Is it shit down their throat?
What school did you learn this in?
He shit down their throat. It was 4 touchdowns in the set.
Was this the same Westlake that that Drew Brees was a product of? Because I don't think he would ever use that sort of language to describe his performance.
You've never been in a locker room with one Mr. Drew Brees. I'll tell you this, man. I think that, look, it's definitely going to be the end of the Titans. This is it. I'm calling it.
It's the end of the road for them?
They're done. I'm calling it. Done. The Chiefs are going to kill them. So I love Mahomes. I love Kelsey, all these guys. What about in the other game? I probably didn't tell you, Trashman, but speaking of shitting down your throat, I was sick as shit on Sunday night. I got so sick that I actually had to turn off the Seattle Green Bay game and just go like throw up and like lay around and be sick. It was terrible. That's how my wife knew that I was really, really sick. I couldn't even have football turned on.
The perils of having dirty children.
I swear to God, man, these kids, I get tilted at these kids whenever I'm just like, whenever they pick up something off the ground and they like eat it or something like that, they're like, I'm sorry, and I'm just like, look, I don't care about you. I care about me. Because if you get sick, that's fine. But you bring it home to me and I get sick. That's what gets me.
They're building up their defenses. Yours are probably already pretty set.
All right. So what about Raheem Mostert? He's only 4,300 this week. Now it's like, is Tevin Coleman more expensive than Mostert? I was making up the thing to make the Vegas tool a little bit earlier. We have all the props now available to us. And I just kind of want to hit, like we said, we're going to go over this a lot more with Byron tomorrow. But just as long as I have Trashman here, just want to get his trashy sort of overview on it. With these running backs for the 49ers have been impossible to figure out. Tevin Coleman was Byron's play last week, broke the slate. Byron was a 1v1 away from making top 10 in the goddamn Millionaire Maker. He was really on it last week. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see if he's back on Tevin Coleman this week because Tevin Coleman's now 5,700 on DraftKings, whereas Raheem Mostert's down to 4,300. And if you look at their Tevin Coleman's plus 120 to score. Raheem Mostert's a minus 110 favorite. What do you think about those guys? Can you go to either one of them this week? Because we have Aaron Jones at 6,700, Damian Williams at 7K, Derrick Henry at 8,700. I think that Raheem Mostert might be a popular addition for these guys who are trying to pay up for Devontae Adams, et cetera, plus get two of those expensive running backs in.
Coleman, I feel like it was a hot hand situation last week. I don't feel like they intended on using him as much as they did. I felt like he got hot and they kept him in the game.
So you don't like him? You don't want to pay $1,400 more than you pay for Mostert? I think that Shanahan's going to fuck everybody if they try and go back to Coleman. Do you know what he's going to do? He's going to run out Breida for 20 touches.
Well, that was actually my play last week. Just as my contrarian kind of play up, lineup move. Yeah, didn't really pay off, but yeah, I don't know. I really think it's going to be Mostert again. I don't think that. Well, again, if Coleman gets the hot hand, they could keep him in, but I don't think he's going to be their first option.
All right. Well, enough of the riveting talk here about the championship slate. We'll go over the whole thing tomorrow with Byron for all those plays and everything. Oh, but just before the prospect talk, Trashman, because I know you've been busy with your prospect profiles, and that's why people are tuning in. How about the Giants interviewing Jason Garrett for their offensive coordinator job?
Well, we knew that was probably going to be the case.
Well, how? It's like the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's like you're going to hire Joe Judge to be a culture guy and to be like a leader for your team and to create the culture and be like a figurehead and the CEO type. And we're going to bring in good coaches who are good teachers to you're going to bring in Jason Garrett to be the teacher about for the offense. What has that guy done?
They just want his secrets. They want his secrets. They want his information on the Cowboys. They want his information on the Cowboys.
If he knew shit about how to make that organization run well, he wouldn't be canned.
It was his in-game decision making.
You tell him Mike McCarthy's secrets? Was you tell him Jerry's secrets? Everybody knows Jerry's a creep.
I generally think
you don't hire an offensive coordinator.
It's a move to possibly beat the Cowboys twice a season. I think that would be the move.
I think that you have all the intel that you need on the Cowboys from your own pro scouting department, from your own film, from everything. You don't need Jason Garrett coming in like like Michael Lombardi calls him, like the greeter at the casino. He just shakes your hand, gives you a ticket to the fucking buffet. Like, unbelievable, man. Like, what has that guy done from an offensive standpoint to make you think, this is the guy that I want to come in to run my offense, to make my decisions in crunch time? Like, what has he done? I mean, I can understand the platitudes. Well, he's done a good job with Dak Prescott. Look what he's done with Ezekiel Elliott. We have a guy like Saquon that we're looking to get involved. Like, well, I mean, I guess I can understand that, but it's like they've done that organization has done everything they can to get his hands the fuck off of the offense for years. For years.
I think that was an effort. That was in an effort to get him to pay attention to what was actually going on in the game other than his play calling. I think it was his poor clock management. It was his poor decision making throughout the games in crunch time. I think that was mainly the reason why they got him off of calling plays. I think if maybe he was just calling plays, maybe he would, do a better job at just that.
I disagree. I don't understand why you're not just dancing in the streets as a Cowboys fan. It's like, I can't believe it. Like, not only do we get rid of him, the Giants are going to take him.
No, because we don't want them to have any other extra information.
What secrets?
I don't know. That's why they're secrets. That's why they're secrets.
There are no secrets in today's NFL. There are no secrets anywhere. You're being monitored by the government right now, Trashman. By the governments of all different countries, I should say.
Probably. I hope they're learning something important here.
Does Denzel Mims come from a whole other planet entirely?
A whole other planet? I don't know about that.
Denzel Mims.
He comes from whatever planet Devontae Parker is from.
Well, no, because here's the thing. Let's not put that evil on Denzel Mims, because when you talk about Devontae Parker, people are going to talk about the fact that for 3 years, all he wanted to do was drink a bunch of fucking Yoo-hoos and not drink enough water. Like, he never could break out. He's always good in camp, but never good on the playing field. I really liked your Devontae Parker comp for Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims out of Baylor. He's 6'3", 215. He'll be at the Senior Bowl next week. So, of course, stay tuned here. Make sure and subscribe here on the YouTube. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever it is you're listening. Follow us on Twitter as we'll be getting these broadcasts out. Not sure if we'll be doing the live video streams there in Mobile, but we will try to. And we'll have some interesting roommates this year as well that we could be doing some content like this with. So make sure and stay tuned for that. Whenever I looked at Denzel Mims, I thought 6'3", 215, and the way, I mean, look, he scored 50% of the team touchdowns, 24% team receptions, 29% team receiving yards, which is just really, really good, within the context of that offense. One guy that we'll talk about later, Bryan Edwards, is the only guy who was better as far as the profile. I think we've done 6 of these so far. Bryan Edwards, or is it five or six? It's either 5 or 6 so far. Bryan Edwards, the only one with a better, production / dominator type of score than Denzel Mims. And just when you look at him, he's got that long, slinky way to him, which is just this catch radius that is just so much bigger than you would even think. Like, because it's like, well, you think it's big because he's 6'3" and he's kind of lanky, but then he goes up for the football and you say, whoa. I can't wait to see what the length of his arms are. We could be looking at some kind of 34 7/8 inch arm, something like that. Really big wingspan. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kenny Golladay, or maybe the sort of the best of what we thought in Equanimeous St. Brown could be.
Okay.
I didn't want to quite say an AJ Green, but he's kind of he's slinky and skinny like that, and that's why I think it's just a little bit different than a Devontae Parker, because Devontae Parker, a little bit more BMI, right? A little bit more muscle mass, kind of a little bit more beastly Des to his game.
From what I was watching, I mean, he didn't look that skinny to me. I mean, what is he? He's 215.
Thin. Yeah, he's thin though. He's
6'3", 215.
He's got those kind of sinewy, long, wiry arms. It's like it's the same. It's the same. It's definitely AJ Green looking arms. For sure.
And he's got really good body. I think his body control goes a long way in kind of lending to that catch radius.
So he was he was a former quarterback back in high school. He's just really good, just all around player. He was just one of these guys that's played a lot of different sports. He was track, he was baseball, he was basketball, he was a former quarterback. So he's a guy that has a real time understanding of the points on the football field where the quarterback aims, as far as how he relates that to his own route tree. I agree with what Trashman said, that, really good body control, really good on the sidelines as far as, being able to tap in, right? Go up, get it. Now, do you think that, what do you mean whenever you say here economy of motion? I've never heard that out of you. What does that mean?
It means that, like, he doesn't waste any movements. He doesn't waste any motion. No. He doesn't waste any movement.
Like it is route stems.
Right.
I agree. He really is a guy who you'd figure. I wanted to say, like, we have a long history of these Baylor wide receivers going fucking bust, though, right? I was trying to think of a good one. Kendall Wright turned out not to be good. Josh Gordon, whatever.
Who was the other guy in Tennessee?
Corey Coleman. Jalen Hurd, you mean? Because Jalen Hurd went from Tennessee down to Waco.
No, there's someone else I'm thinking of farther back.
I'm thinking of Baylor, though. What you said Tennessee?
Well, that ended up in Tennessee.
Oh, Kendall Wright, right?
Kendall Wright wasn't really a bust.
He was a first round pick. He was a bust. Kendall Wright's a bust, Trashman. He's a bust.
He might just he looks like a bust.
He looks like a keg. His body looks like a keg. He's got his big round body.
I felt like I seemed more athletic when I met him at that pro day I went to a few years ago.
There's just all these guys, like Corey Coleman was a bust. And there have been others. I forget who's the guy that the Cowboys picked up in the 2015. He went undrafted. I felt like it doesn't matter. But then I thought to myself, well, Matt Rule, there's a big difference between a Matt Rule offense and an Art Briles offense, right? So I mean, we can't put that kind of evil on Denzel Mims. And I think that whenever you look at it, it's like the one thing that you worry about is the concentration. PFF had him at 11 drops on 66 catchable targets, which is like Raiders era Amari Cooper bad, right? Just bad. That's like Amari Cooper doesn't want to be there anymore level, like, drops. Just, there were times, and you noticed it on film. I definitely noticed it on film. I just wonder with him, the fact is, we don't necessarily expect how much stock do you put into the fact that he's a really good route runner at this point? Because if you, I don't know, it's like sometimes when these guys are really good route runners, it's like, well, they're a good route runner at the college level, and maybe that's just because they've practiced and worked hard or something like that. But it's not necessarily anything that can be. It isn't like somebody can get their hands on good route running and really transform that into anything else like they can with pure speed, size, explosiveness, burst, and other natural kind of attributes. So, like, how much? My question is, how much stock do you put in it? Because if you look at it in whole, whenever I look at, because I'm going to ask you later on, out of the 5 guys that we've done these videos on so far, if you can have a ranking on them or even put them in tiers. But I was thinking that Denzel Mims might kind of be towards the top. But then I think, well, if it has to do a lot with the way I just like the way that he runs routes and stuff, maybe that's not the smartest thing to be doing.
Well, I think he's also really just a really good athlete. I think sometimes he depends too much on his athleticism. I think that leads to some of those concentration drops you were talking about. Like, I feel like it. Like, to me, his route running wasn't something that I thought was one of his, major pros. In fact, one of his cons I thought was that sometimes his routes go unfinished.
Well,
he
stands up too tall. He's too he doesn't dig down into them, right? He doesn't dig down into them. So
yeah, and I think oftentimes he relies too much on his athleticism.
I agree. I mean, is his athleticism even going to be that good though? What's he going to run? 4.5?
A 4.5, I think, around there. I think he's more explosive than he is like a fast guy.
Okay, so do you like Denzel Mims more than Chase Claypool?
I mean, they're different types of receivers.
I know I like him more than Van Jefferson, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I won't know until next week at the Senior Bowl. But yeah. I don't think I like him more than Chase Claypool.
I don't like him as your number one receiver as much as I would a Chase Claypool. I think Claypool he's got the size and I think he's pretty polished.
Do you think Denzel Mims will play? Do you think he'll play do you see him as a true X, or do you think he'll be a flanker? I think he's a flanker.
I could see him playing like the role, like a Chris Godwin type role.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris Godwin, his role now, that's a slot role. That's a slot role.
But I feel like he could play. I feel like he could play all over the field, but I could see him being, because of his size. Because I think he's more powerful than you're giving him credit for.
So you think he's going to test well? I don't know. So. I mean, just maybe so. There's something about Denzel Mims that you really like, but the drops are bad. Stays too upright through routes. Wish he would dig in and have that same sort of economy of motion that you talk about. Like, because that's the thing. I ask you X or Z because like in my notes I wrote down that he has better feet getting off press than he does at his routes transition points.
Right.
Which is like, it shouldn't be like, it should be the same at both places. And if it gets down to the point it could be down to what you think, maybe Denzel Mims relies a little bit too much on his athleticism. And if that's the case, maybe that's kind of good because it shows that maybe he has a level of requisite athleticism that perhaps I wasn't giving him maybe enough credit for. But I think I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Well, what about Collin Johnson from Texas? I mean, I have a shitload to say about Collin Johnson. So,
I mean, yeah, you probably have more to say about him than I. I mean, he would be arguably the tallest receiver in the NFL once he's drafted. Again, he's got that elite,
which is worth about a whole bag of smelly dicks.
And well, he also has good body control for someone his size, I think, and he's a solid route runner. He's got good footwork. He's got really good footwork for a big guy that I noticed.
He works on it. That's all he does. Takes his fucking GoPro out there to the field and just films himself for his YouTube channel, like working on feet and ropes and stuff. I'm serious, dude. Go to Collin Johnson.
I think for someone that size, I think that's a pretty acute skill to I guess, I don't know how to say be elite at, but be one of your stronger points. Someone that size.
I mean, it takes going back to Collin Johnson's sophomore year at Texas to kind of even see a year where he was a little bit of a burgeoning alpha. I mean, he was outshined in 2018 by little Jordan Humphrey, big time, and big time outshined by Devin Duvernay at Texas in 2019. And if you're going to ask, like, I would have never thought coming into the 2019 season, like we'll do one of these on Duvernay soon enough. I think people are going to become very aware of Devin Duvernay next week at the Senior Bowl. And that's
why I related him
to that Collin Johnson would have been the beta to Devin Duvernay. Like, especially with all these, just all the hype coming in, man. Like, it's the high school highlights.
I mean, you can see it in his play on the field. I mean, you're a lot more familiar with him than I am, but even just watching him on the field, that's why my comparison was Auden Tate.
This is a bad comparison, man.
You don't think so?
No. I actually like it. I didn't even add my own comp into your initial write-up, which I generally do, and I because I had my own thoughts and all this. I thought that Auden Tate one is a good one, which is hurtful. Which is hurtful to what everybody expected Collin Johnson to be. People thought this guy was like a young Megatron, dude. Like his dad is Johnny Johnson, a 10-year NFL vet, all-pro player, played as a defensive back. His brother Kirk Johnson, whose complete career has been devastated by injury. He was a running back that whenever he came to Texas, people thought that he was just going to be one of the next best studs. We saw in the game, the 2015 game versus Texas Tech. Do you remember the game when Chris Warren went ape shit? The Chris Warren Texas Tech game? Oh, all right. That game was going to be the Kirk Johnson ape shit game but Kirk Johnson tore his ACL. And from there in 2015, every single year it was a goddamn ACL. It was a fucking motorbike accident or an Achilles, like all that. So Kirk Johnson was sapped, right, for his entire career. Collin Johnson was always thought of as the dude who was like the part of that. They were both legacies, right? Because their dad was a Texas ex, but Collin was like the real prize. Like everybody was, surprised by Kirk, but Collin was the one that's like, but Collin's coming around next year. Just wait till Collin gets here. Blah blah blah. Heavily recruited everywhere. High 4-star athlete. I believe 5-star on at least one site, and it's never really come to fruition for him. It's like I go out there to Texas practices and I watch the X wide receivers, and half the time I come away from there more impressed with like younger kids in the program, like Brennan Eagles. Certainly more impressed with some of the young slot wide receivers, Devin Duvernay last year, some of the young slot guys like Jake Smith. I mean, and Collin Johnson had a lot of trouble staying healthy this season. If you look at what PFF says too, one of his calling card should be the contested catch. He only PFF has him graded as coming down with only 5 of 13 contested catch opportunities in 2019. And like you said, it's like he's so big and he should play more powerful. But it's like he plays like this dude who look, give him all the credit in the world. The guy works his ass off. I mean, he would there would be stories about him and the old Texas quarterback Shane Buechele showing up before 5 a.m. workouts. When's the last time you showed up before a 5 a.m. anything, Trashman? Showed up early.
Maybe the last time I did a Sunday morning radio show.
RosterWatch show. Yeah, right. But like they would get there before 5 a.m. workouts to throw together, right? And Collin would always stay after, and like all the dude, like he lives, breathes, eats this shit. And people are going to get to see it at the Senior Bowl. They're going to get to see his personality. He has an awesome personality and an incredible work ethic. But he doesn't use his size. He just doesn't. He doesn't box guys out, doesn't go up and get contested balls on a frequent basis. It's more of this stuff wherever he uses his size to make these like glitzy catches with length on the sideline. It's stuff like that. You don't ever see him bodying these guys up and going up and being a beast. I feel like it's a shame. I also feel like, man, it's like this is a guy who's really never lived up to his potential during his time at Texas. It's he's a great blocker downfield, works really hard. He studies his craft like crazy. I think that the potential is certainly there. I'm like, that's kind of.
Well, I see him as maybe being a more of a PPR asset. I think if he does get on the field on a consistent basis, I see him catching a lot of balls. I just don't see him being a big playmaker.
And if we see him at the Senior Bowl next week, when I see him on one-on-ones versus these elite corners, and he's showing an ability to make these contested catches, like that's going to go a long way with me. I want to see Collin Johnson be more physical, man. I want him to insert himself as a bad man and not some big, tall, silky smooth guy with great feet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but I think there are places for both types of players on the field.
Do you like Collin Johnson better than Denzel Mims?
Not as not as a not as somebody I want to rely on fantasy on a regular basis. I feel like Johnson's going to be the kind of guy who has a decent floor in fantasy, but is rarely going to have those boom days that you want in fantasy.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Texas, dude, during the 20 during this is the last thing that I'll say, and then we'll move on to the next one. But just during the 2018 season, Texas didn't have one single play of over 50 yards. And Collin Johnson's supposed to be your big play guy.
He was supposed to be the big play guy.
Yeah. What, do you think slow ass little Jordan Humphrey's your big play guy? That guy ran a fucking 4.8. Well, Jesus.
I feel like I see him getting the ball more. I don't
know. All right. And then finally, let's move on to the last one here. And I wish we could show highlights like last time, Trashman, but our managing partner said we got some kind of copyright strike last time, so we can't do it again.
Oh.
But we'll have video coming up from Pro Days and from the Senior Bowl, stuff like that. We'll be able to have video supplementing these if you are watching this on YouTube or Periscope moving forward. Okay, Bryan Edwards, South Carolina. And this is one I'm excited to talk about because Trashman, I think so far I've found my favorite player that I've evaluated out of the first 5. Where are you at to start as far as Bryan Edwards is concerned? He is a 6'3", 215-ish, pretty beastly player out of, as I said, out of South Carolina.
Yeah, I initially, when I was watching him, the first thing I thought was Deebo Samuel, but I don't know, maybe that's because he was also South Carolina. But I think also the kind of routes that he runs, they use him as a running back on a few plays. I feel like he's kind of like a utility knife. I feel like he's kind of like a bigger, stronger, like Percy Harvin,
I like that. I mean, you like that. He's a different body type than Deebo.
He's a different body type, and that's why ultimately
Deebo looks more like a running back. But this fucking guy, his run after catch is like Deebo. He runs after catch like Deebo does, even though he doesn't look like a running back with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, that's why ultimately my comparison to somebody who's playing now was like Demaryius Thomas, just as far as his build goes and his athleticism, ability to turn, a short catch into a long gain. More like a Demaryius Thomas of old. But so far.
I like the Demaryius Thomas. Yeah, I like the Demaryius Thomas Colin. I went back and watched some old Ruben Randall LSU highlights. That's who he reminded me of. The run after catch, same kind of body. Ruben Randall.
Is he as tall as Ruben Randall? I feel like Ruben Randall was lankier, taller,
No, same. He's more like bulky than Ruben Randall, but Ruben Randall was 6. I mean, I checked it out. He's 6'3", 215. I mean, I'm not sure that Bryan Edwards is going to come in at quite 6'3". We'll see it at weigh-ins next week. He might be more like 6'2". But dude, he is like. Whenever I look at, you wrote down some of your pros, I wrote down some of my. This is a lot of pros. Very athletic, diverse route tree, run after catch specialist, leaping ability, sticky hands. Broke out at an extremely young age. I mean, his breakout as a freshman, Trashman, one of only 6 freshmen to start their first game as a Gamecock since 2019. The second best true freshman season in school history at wide receiver behind Alshon Jeffrey. He played in every single game that season. So, I mean, he's played alongside good players. Just a dominant market share profile from this year, 26% team receptions, 31% team receiving yards, 50% team receiving touchdowns. Pro Football Focus has made note that he's broken at least 10 tackles after catch in each of the last 3 seasons. And like you said,
my question is, why is he still there? Why did he play 4 years?
Oh, that was a question, dude. I mean, whatever we were breaking down Deebo Samuel last year, a lot of us said, like, well, what do we do with his market share and with this guy when we know that this guy number 89 is there? Do we bump it up? Do we say like, well, Deebo was playing alongside this number 89 that was really good, Or do we say, why was he ceding some of his production to this number 89 who's coming back for his senior season? So that's a question that we all asked last season. And I don't know why he decided to come back. I'll ask him next week. I'll ask him next week why he decided to come back. But the fact of the matter is, he is not old. He'll only be 20. He'll be 21 until like Thanksgiving of his first NFL season. Brings a ton of potential in the return game. He has 2 military parents. The only thing that we came up with as cons in his game, well, for one, just the counting numbers on their own, right? On their face, not the best. I don't have do I have the 2020, my 2020 sheet pulled up? I don't think so. So let me just look at the counting numbers on their own. So, all right, Bryan Edwards, 71 receptions, which let me also say this. His hands are awesome. There's a little bit of trouble with the catch point in some of his junior tape, but in his senior tape, I went and looked on PFF for the catchable the catchable target rate. He caught 71 of 74 catchable targets last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you just watching on tape, I mean, some of the catches he makes are pretty incredible with what he's able to do with one hand. Bring the ball down, bring the ball in.
Yeah, he's gonna have 10-inch paws, at least 97/8 inch, 816 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. That doesn't seem that great, but South Carolina only had 12 receiving touchdowns on his whole team last year. He was responsible for 50% of team touchdowns. Responsible for 31%.
He's had pretty bad quarterback play the entire time he's there.
Yeah, and so you and I both think the same thing. It's like, I want to see a guy that's so physical in the run game with run after catch. I'd like to see him be more physical at the catch point, and I'd like to see him be just a little bit better with creating separation. He doesn't seem to naturally create separation in a whole lot of ways. But that's like, other than just missing he missed a few games in 2019 with a knee. I believe that was just a meniscus. I'll have to go and check. I think it was a meniscus. But that just goes to show that his team market share numbers at 26, 31, and 50% for receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns could have been even better, right? Right. If he missed those 3 games, like this was a guy who absolutely dominated the touches and the production there for the Gamecocks. So really think that he's just a awesome prospect. I think just from the eyeball test alone, if you just look at his production just within the context of his own offense, it's better. He dominated more than Van Jefferson, Chase Claypool, Denzel Mims, or Collin Johnson. He's going to run. I know that you had him pegged as like an unofficial 4.58. There's no way, Trashman. This guy's going to run a 4.45.
4.45? I don't know. Yeah. That was somewhere. I don't know. I picked that up from somewhere.
If you go back and he has Nike verified performances from the opening as a high school senior as a 4.53 40 time. So, okay. I mean, that's a laser 4.53, 30, almost a 38-inch vertical and a 4.3 shuttle, short shuttle. So, I mean, the change of direction's great, explosive. Like he's going to test well. I think he's going to show up well at Mobile, and he's the career leader at South Carolina in receptions and receiving yards. I guess you did know that Alshon Jeffrey and Sidney Rice didn't play all 4 years, but I mean, shit, this guy missed a little bit of time too, and there are just a lot of things about his game that I like. I just, whenever a guy's got really, really good hands, really good leaping ability, and they're awesome with their run after catch, that's a prospect that I'm going to,
Yeah, I like him as a prospect a lot.
Prospect I'm going to be interested in. All right, so tell me, out of the 5 we've watched so far, who do you like best?
Who do I like best? It's probably going to be somewhere between Mims and Edwards. I like things about both of those guys.
You didn't answer the question. Which one do you like best?
I think maybe Mims just slightly.
The trash man, always a contrarian. All right, man. That'll be good.
Right.
We're going to end the pod like that. To everybody on YouTube, Periscope, thank you for watching. You will not hear this part on the podcast, but if you want to get this pod in your earbuds and your listening devices, just go into Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen, and subscribe. We will catch you guys next time. Peace.
Yeah. All right, man. I got to roll.